Things are moving in the Senate. It's very interesting. Obviously, it's 2 years. I mean, it's 4 months out from an election cycle, a very important election cycle. In the midterm of the president, and we see the events of the day sort of impacting what we're going to talk about and what's moving. Most recently, obviously, is the gun bill, and I'll talk about that. The violence prevention bill, however you want to characterize it. It has a lot of mental health, school safety, tightens up some of the backgrounds, some of the ability to sell ghost guns. It helps states who have red flag law. This is probably the hottest part of the bill is the red flag portion of it. Just to clarify for everybody, it says if 19 states have red flag laws, if you have a red flag law, you're going to have access to money to implement that. If you want to implement as a state, you're going to have money to do that. If you don't want to have a red flag law, which my state has passed a law that says we don't want to have a red flag law, West Virginia will be able to use that money for other mental health, drug courts, other kinds of services that can prevent these enormous tragedies that we see and make sure that law-abiding citizens are the ones that have access to weapons and not folks that are either ticking time bombs or who cannot legally access firearms. This is very controversial issues because it is such a political issue. 14 Republicans voted for it. I voted for it because I believe that the American people and West Virginians, a great Second Amendment loving state as I have been and am, wanted us to do something to address this issue. And less concerned about what we're going to do and that we're responding to what looks like a pathology of a mass murderer. A lot of times they're suicidal. They don't care if they live or die, and they want to go out in a blaze of fire, and they're able to do it. And so the mental health gaps in that whole in the system are glaring. Certainly post-pandemic, we've recognized that quite a bit. So I expect the vote today to pretty much mirror. I don't think anybody's going to change their mind on this, on where they were on the initial vote. Although I will say Pat Toomey was not there for the vote. It's expected that he would vote. So that would be 15 Republicans. I know the leadership over in the House is in broad opposition to this vote and bill, but our understanding is that the Speaker may hold them over for the next day or two to try to pass that bill. So appropriations, I'm on appropriations. We have no numbers over on our side. I do Homeland Security. No controversy there at all. It's like ICE and ball and all the things. But I tell you what, the situation at the border is just deteriorated. Talking to the professionals who are dealing with this, whether it's ICE or Border Patrol, the morale in these agencies is way, way down. I mean, when you can't control what's going on, and you're getting blamed for everything that's going on when it's way out of your control, is very demoralizing for people who are really in tough positions. We had the most people ever in the history of our country come across last month. And basically it's catch and release. And so this is not just a security problem. This is an enormous political problem for the administration. And I've actually talked to some folks from South and Central America who have said, I was like, why all of a sudden are these numbers bigger? What do you all think are the reasons? And because they're coming from their countries. And they said, everybody wants to come to America. It's the greatest place ever. I mean, why wouldn't you want to come to America? So that desire has always been there. But why are they feeling like they can actually? And he said, because basically the administration has signaled, we're going to be nice. We're going to treat you humanely. We're not, we're going to, listen to your cases and basically we're open. And that signal's come through loud and clear to all the cartels and the illegal organizations that traffic people, drugs, and everything else. So that's a discouraging message, and as I said, it's a political nightmare for the president. But they don't seem to be able. All they want to do is build more temporary processing centers at the border to make it move faster. I'm like, no. What you need to do is stop the flow, get some kind of deterrent in here, and that doesn't seem to be what they're fighting their advocates on the other side, and it's very difficult. So gas prices, obviously the biggie. I made a rousing speech on the floor of the Senate yesterday, me and about 14 other people, on gas prices. Here's what I don't understand about gas prices in this administration. How many of us were here when gas prices went up in 06 and 07 during the Bush administration? And if you're running every 2 years and you're running into a torrent of negative from the top, like the Democrats are right now, and like we were under Bush. And one of the things is higher gas prices. The Bush administration got on that quick. They started talking about releasing from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. They started talking about changing refining blends and everything else to get the supply out and get it out quicker. And they met it right there much more in the beginning. I did not understand, because I know President Biden has people that were there, that they couldn't see how much this hurts people and how mad it makes them. I mean, when you see stickers on the gasoline things that say, you did this with, Joe Biden's picture on it, that's pretty. We have a lot of those in West Virginia. It's pretty bad. Somebody actually paid to make that sticker to put on that gas thing. That's how. So I don't think, the president's talking about a gas tax holiday. That's not going to go. Even Speaker Pelosi said she doesn't think it's a good idea. It would just gut the trust fund. Confusing. I am not going to be, we were talking about it last night. How are you going to put that into action? Are you going to send everybody a check? Well, that's great. That means our offices get thousands of calls saying, but I own the car. Why did she get the check? And, and all these kinds of things. And how do they even track it? Gift cards to me are just open for fraud. We already know there's fraud in gift cards anyway. So that's more of that. And then I noticed the messaging I was listening to. I can't listen to MSNBC for obvious reasons. And honestly, don't tell my Fox friends, but I can't listen to Fox in the morning because they're just a little, it'd be like listening to Jim Councilman. They're too happy all the time. If I had to be that happy, I'm not happy in the morning. I'm not as happy. And so I listened to Squawk Box, and they had somebody on there who was, now what they're saying is, well, we're going to give you a tax holiday, and the states are too, so that's going to be a 50-cent. Yeah, it's just assuming every state is going to give a tax holiday, so that they can get the number of how much you'd save at the pump up to 50 cents, which is significant. If you're saying, oh, you're going to get 18 cents savings if we get rid of the gas tax, people are like, that's so? What's that going to do over a 3-month period of time? So they are changing their messaging on that, but I don't think that's going to be successful. I think he just threw that up there because he had to get something on the board that says, we're going to try to help you. But there are some real tough things that are going to be coming down the pike in terms of whether the Senate can change. Obviously, we're 50-50. I serve as the other senator for the real president, Joe Manchin, who is all the time stirring it up, as all of you know. And everybody always asks me, what does Joe Manchin think about this? And I'm like, I told Joel, I said, I'm going to start charging for this because I can make a lot of money giving my opinion on what Joe Manchin's thinking. And so anyway, I think some of the states that are still outstanding, I think Georgia looks good, but it's going to be a fight to the finish. I think North Carolina looks good. We've got a good candidate there, and it's settled, and I'm excited about that. I had not met him, but I found out he's married to a West Virginian, so check. He's Ted Budd, yes, good guy. Pennsylvania, how expensive is that going to be? I don't know. The people from Pennsylvania seem to think we could win that one and win it. I wouldn't say easily, but win it well. Then there's Missouri. We keep asking Roy. Roy should start charging for that because I'm going to really miss Roy. I served with him over in the House. I served with him in the Senate. We're in the Hillbilly Caucus. We do nothing. We have no opinions. We just eat, and that's all. And so Roy, that primary I think is in August, and the only thing I know is that everybody's working hard to get President Trump to not endorse Greitens because he's the one that cannot win the race, it's perceived. I'm in for Vicky, and I hope Vicky's successful. I know she's working hard at it. Ohio, I don't think is going to be as easy as what folks would say. I think that Tim Ryan apparently is a really hard worker. I did not realize this. Working it really hard. I know. I always thought he's kind of, but so apparently he's out there working it really hard. And then J.D. Vance was so far right to get the nomination. It'll be interesting to see if he comes back and Ohio is all those rural areas, and then they call them the 3 C's: Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus. So I know we have some folks here from Ohio. They might know more about that. But I think in the end, Ohio's turning redder, and Ohio's going to be fine. And then there's still some other nominations in other states. So I don't have a real prediction here. I think we could take over the majority, or we could stay tied, or we could lose. There's a good prediction. I don't know. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that and open it up for questions. I always like to leave on end. A lot of people ask me at home and folks, like, how do you do this job? And it's got to be really hard because people are mad at you. I was saying our phone calls, or I had lunch with our interns yesterday. They're getting a life lesson when they start picking up the phone on these gun issues. And, it's a lot of people from my state that are not happy with me. It's about 80-20, which I told them nobody calls to say you're doing a good job, so don't worry about that. But, some people are pretty heated up, and so they're learning about that. And so I tell them, and I tell everybody, when you can say you're one of 100 of a governing body of the most powerful nation in the world, and you're making decisions that are impacting generations, and that's a pretty cool thing. So I tell everybody, don't. First of all, I asked for the job. I put my name on the ballot, so that was a request. And I'm just really proud to be in the Senate, and proud to have been in the House, and proud to be your co-chair of Ripon and all those kinds of things. And Jim says, oh, she always talked to the staff. I always talk to the staff. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I didn't want to ask my fellow members, so you guys would. More than once, he was like, come on, Shelley, you're going to be with his buddy, Mike Oxley, who we miss every day. So anyway, I'll end there and say, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to get into it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Perhaps for people like me, you can explain a little bit about your Capito plan and closing the digital divide and how that started, what it means. I came from a rural state as well, so hopefully that is something that can help people in those areas in particular, but perhaps you can explain it a little more for people like me.
Right. Well, when we looked at the statistics for West Virginia, and I really realized in 2014 when I started doing the whole state, campaigning in the whole state, how many people were not connected and how many people, couldn't get service, either cell or internet service. And it was jarring because it's such an integral part of our daily lives now. And then we had the pandemic, which really highlighted it, whether it's telehealth or education, remote learning, remote work, all those kinds of things. And things like statistics like the price of a house, if you live in an area that's not covered by internet, the price of your house is devalued $7,000 to $10,000, all these kinds of things that we know. But a lot of it's in the rural areas, which West Virginia is totally rural, plus we have geographic challenges. So I started a thing called Capito Connect to try to figure out how we can get everybody connected. And this infrastructure bill that we passed has massive investments. We're working with the utilities to try to help us. We've got a really nice project going in southern West Virginia, which is really difficult to reach. It's the mountains where they say you don't know it's daylight until it gets to be noon because the sun comes up in between the hollows and the sun comes down. They're not high like Colorado mountains, but that's all there is. It's if you've ever been to parts of West Virginia, it's beautiful, but it's difficult in times. So it's difficult to build. And so we're working with the utility AEP and county commissions, EDA, and a local internet service provider, and they're going to end up putting out internet service to tens of thousands of residents down there. So there's all kinds of creativities. We did a thing with Facebook. Facebook has a major line coming up through our state. I told the Facebook people, you need some good publicity here. How better than to doing internet to rural America? That's a good one. And so they're there, and they've been great because they're working with local municipalities and others to try to get off their trunk line to do that. I mean, I just think this money that we're putting in, Raimondo's telling people from states, she hasn't told me this yet, but from like Idaho and other rural states, everyone in your state is going to be connected after this. I think that's a pretty bold promise, but I believe it's going to be close to being true. And it's great. So, the economics of it are, I don't have to tell you what they are, but the availabilities for telehealth. I mean, I just had a call yesterday with people from ALS. Think how immobile people have ALS are, and it's what kind of treatment. Telehealth for them is a huge accessibility issue and quality issue for their health care. So the nice thing is it's not a partisan issue. It's more urban, rural. A lot of the funds have been going to up speeds for other people before you're getting to that last person. So this bill is all for unserved and underserved people.
My last question for you is this: as a mother, as a grandmother, as a spouse to a great guy, are you optimistic about today or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? I mean, there's you go out home to West Virginia, and there's a lot of people that are questioning everything about our country and everything about what government is doing. What do you feel about this? Do you feel encouraged?
Well, I mean, it's easy to get discouraged. It's really easy to get discouraged when you live in middle America and you feel like you get flown over or driven through and nobody pays any attention to you. And I think that's how Donald Trump got elected, quite honestly, was the 8 years under Obama. That's the way we were treated. And that middle part of America. And I remember my son saying to me, Mom, are people really that mad? This was before the Trump-Hillary election. Are people really that mad? Or are they just watching something that's telling them to get mad? And you know what I told him? I said, you got to get out of Whole Foods, honey. And because he lives up here. And so it's hard. So I think the discussions of, I can't stand this. I saw Hillary said we're losing democracy. I'm like, give me a break. And all this negative sorts of things. And those are political statements. I think that people that are every day getting up and going to work are so focused on that all of this blah-da-dee-da of what government's doing and who's going to win the leadership race and it just is, it doesn't trickle down to that. I don't want to say it doesn't trickle down. It's not impacting their everyday life. They love this country. They're going to be out 4th of July with their parades and their flags, and their sons and daughters are going to be signing up to be in the military, and that is happening everywhere. And I worry more about the tone of the discussion that we see in the media, because I do think it disenfranchises. I think young people are turned off by it. They don't engage in the discussion because they don't like the tone, and they just turn it off. And so therefore they don't really know what the things of the day are, because they only see it as, well, you're happy, you're sad, you're happy, you're mad, or whatever. So I am concerned about that, because I don't see where that goes. And I can't really blame all, social media. It's just where we're tracking. And so I think that that's discouraging. I mean, things that you used to do to get political involvement, like, I saw a picture of a dinner that my dad had in 1972 in West Virginia for a Republican. He was the only Republican. They had 1,300 people at this Republican dinner. I mean, you're lucky if you can get 40 now. I mean, people just don't engage with that like they used to. So I think we just have to learn to engage them differently. But if you want to get people to have faith in democracy, send them over to Ukraine and let them see what it's like. I mean, send them to any other country and realize what oppression and inability to raise your family and read what you want to read and all those kinds of things. So, I have great faith in the country. I asked Donald Rumsfeld one time, and is this the worst time? Obviously, I didn't ask him when he was up there. It was obviously when he was still living. And I said, this was probably when it was really getting angry. It's angrier now, but it was starting to get like that. Are these the worst times? And he said, no. He said, when you have to park school buses in front of the White House because people are charging the White House, screaming, hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? He said, when downtown D.C. is on fire after Martin Luther King is assassinated, he said, in his opinion, nothing will be as tense and as discouraging as those times. And we came out of that stronger, better, more involved. So I think that's where we'll end up. It may be a bit of a journey. I'm going to keep fighting my little part of the world to keep the faith. And I want you guys to do that too. Thanks.